Welcome to
Real English with real teachers.
We teach English every single day to people all over the world with different nationalities. And after doing it for 3 or so years, we've realised that a lot of people actually start to get stuck, particularly in the intermediate area or the B1, B2 level of language.
So, in this video we're going to give you 3 fantastic ways that you can implement into your life to go beyond the level that you are at now. And so you can get out of that plateau that you have reached with your English. So we can say goodbye to the intermediate levels and push towards the advanced levels of English.
Technique number 1 is largely focusing on your drive, your motivation, or your get up and go. And a lot of language learners start out with a ton of motivation, drive, and get up and go, don't we? Because when you know nothing to knowing a little bit, it's quite a big contrast. You can say, oh my God, I know all of these phrases now. And before, I didn't know any of it. I'm amazing. I'm learning so much. I'm a sponge of information. And it continues like this, doesn't it? Unfortunately not. It doesn't.
We all know that the longer that we practice a skill or a hobby and we have gone past that initial beginner's phase, it can be really difficult for us to spot or to notice our improvements over time. And we have noticed with many of our students that are at an intermediate level, some of them feel like they stay stuck on that level for such a long time and they can never really see themselves progressing past that B1 or B2 level.
Well, we were actually looking for a case study to example this first technique that we want to give you. But it was actually staring us right in the face because Harry was actually doing it.
So as many of you will know, I am learning Spanish. And you may have seen me in a video of Lucy attempting to sing a Mexican song to her, to serenade her. But clearly that didn't work because she's got a boyfriend now. Anyway, many of the people with whom I practice my Spanish have told me recently that I have advanced my level, and it appears that now I am more or less at a C1 level. And this noticeable progression that I have made, I attribute it to this technique that I have been employing in my Spanish studies. So I thought to myself, how could I mix one of my passions in life with my language learning? And one of those passions is psychology. So I started looking on YouTube for Spanish psychologists who practice cognitive behavioral therapy. And I found Rafael Santandreu. And me encanta. I love this guy. I love everything that he does. And now I've completely immersed myself in his teachings. And in doing this, I've learned so much more Spanish. And now when I talk about psychology and I have the types of philosophical conversations that I enjoy having with people about life, but in Spanish, I feel confident talking about this subject because I have read all of his books. I even tried to translate one of his books into English. It was a really good technique for me, and by reading those books and completely throwing myself into Spanish in that way helped me so much.
So a great technique to supercharge that intrinsic motivation is to connect yourself to a true interest of yours. The areas in life that make you tick, that make you forget about going to bed on time at 10:45, or even make you forget about the important necessities in life of like showering. So we ask you to get in touch with your passions, your callings, your purposes, your interests, And like Harry, follow or get avidly involved in someone who personifies your interest. And we want you to get really creative with the ways in which you interact with these interests in English. And if you have some creative ideas, tell us, write to us, put them in the comments. The possibilities are endless, I tell you. They are endless. You could take a course at uni or online about that topic that you're interested in.
You could host a meetup in your local area in which you interact in English with other people about a subject or an activity that you love, like hiking or reading or fashion, anything that interests you.
You could make your own online content that you're actually really proud of and showcase it to your friends and family.
Write reviews and blogs about places and restaurants that you visit. Become a travel blogger. You could even get super creative by thinking outside of the box. Like, how about writing your own short story?
Producing a miniature series of videos on YouTube.
Or you could even do something as daring as writing your own TED Talk in English and then applying to TED and asking to do this talk. I mean, people actually do this, and me and Charlie are actually considering doing our own TED Talk sometime soon. And I would love to do that in Spanish. It would be scary, but it would be an incredible project.
Whatever it is, remember that if you are not getting the results you want, then it might be time to change your approach.
Okay, now we are ready for technique number 2. Now, many people that get stuck in the intermediate realm or level of English are stuck there because they lack the fully involved experience of learning English.
Our advice is to give yourself that fully immersive experience as much as possible. And if it's actually difficult to go to an English-speaking country, then use technology to surround yourself in English.
Now, it is totally possible to do this from the comfort of your own home because the internet is full. It is insane the amount of free resources that you can find online on different websites and social media platforms that will help you with your English. All you need is access to the internet, which means you can do this.
If you don't have a favourite list of podcasts, then you're missing out.
If you've never listened to a British radio station, then get on it. We've got so many fantastic radio stations that are broadcasting really interesting modern and also traditional music all over the radio. We have Radio 1, which broadcasts modern pop music. We have Radio 2, which plays classical, folk and world music. We have BBC One Extra, which is all about modern day urban music from the UK. Find the radio station that discusses topics that interest you, or the radio station that shares your musical preference, and listen to it every day.
If you don't know who David Attenborough is, then you need to actually probably stop this video right now and go and enjoy his amazing wildlife footage that he narrates in a brilliantly, quintessentially British way. It's fantastic.
If you still have your phone set to your native language, we need to change that immediately. I have my phone in Spanish, and I even have to talk to Siri in Spanish. So if you've got an iPhone, make sure you pop your iPhone on English. Hola Siri. Oye Siri. Bitch. So this is a really good way to improve your pronunciation as well, because Siri will only respond to you if you pronounce things correctly. Oye Siri. Yep. Hell.
Our point here is to manipulate your surroundings to be predominantly English.
The next step to truly immerse yourself in English is to get on a plane and catch a flight to the UK or any other native English speaking country. And once you arrive in that English-speaking country, don't expect the language to come to you. I've spoken to many of my students who have been to England, and they actually said that they speak more English when they're in their own country taking lessons. Now, I think that is absurd. So what we have to do is we have to put ourselves in situations in which we can actually talk to native speakers and other learners of English, because it's not just going to happen without us doing something.
Get yourself on an immersion course, because these courses really make you actively interact with the target language in ways that you wouldn't do elsewhere, and it really helps your confidence and your fluency grow in a short amount of time.
Of course, we have our very own English immersion courses, which we are incredibly proud of. Not only because, we started our own business, but because we think we've created a truly immersive experience, which is different to any other immersion course, because you'll actually be living with two native English teachers, me and Charlie, for a week. So if that is of interest to you, do click on this link and find out more about those courses. But if it's a bit too far for you to travel, then check out one of the other immersion courses which is available to you more locally.
Technique number 3. This takes us back to an episode we released earlier this year, and this technique is rather unheard of, really. It's called language coaching. We're going to dive back into part 2 of the interview with this coach that I interviewed called Christina Lorimer. So let's get stuck in, shall we? This is the second part of the interview. You can check out part 1, where we covered what a language coach is, at the end of this video, or by clicking the top right info card now. Moving on to part 2, Christina is going to cover the outline of how to do a coaching session.
You start with motivation. It always starts with motivation. So today, at this moment, on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you feeling about, working on your English right now? And then, you start with that number. That number is pretty important, especially in terms of a short session, because that's the way you're going to end. So you're going to bookend the sessions with, on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you feeling about improving your English today?
Okay, interesting, yeah.
So there's mechanical goals and mastery goals. And mastery goals would be, what are the objectives and what are the priorities? So this is when you really do some different techniques to ask students, what is the English for? And, not why do you want to learn English? Why is very vague. And then you always want to close out with an action plan. What I like to add into that myself, because I think it's so important, is talk about your support network as well. So let's say I'm working with a Brazilian learner. Who is a Brazilian that you can identify in your life who has learned English? And can they be your mentor? When are you going to tell your family that you're focusing on learning English right now? Who in your immediate network can also practice English with you? So we sort of finish up with an action plan and a support network and close it with the 1 to 10 question about motivation again.
There we have it. Technique number 3 is to get a language coach. So you can get in contact with Christina through her website at christinalorimer.com. I should also add that she specialises in working with native Portuguese to English language learners. Alright, a quick recap of technique number 1 is to combine an interest of yours with the English language. Technique number 2 is to use technology to your advantage and surround yourself predominantly with English. Or, even better, go on an English immersion course. Again, ours is available up top. And technique number 3 is to get yourself a language coach to keep you on track and motivated to keep pushing through that intermediate stage onto the advanced levels. Go ahead and tell us how helpful these 3 tips have been for you, and share any ideas you have for your beloved language learning buddies around the world. If you haven't subscribed yet, then please be our guest and give us a cheeky thumbs up if you fancy it. Catch you next time on Real English with Real Teachers.